Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Sherry. Thank you so much for clicking on here today. Before I get started with the video, I just want to give you a little bit of background about me. This is the first video I'm posting on YouTube. So a little background is that I'm a wife and a stay-at-home mom. And I started this channel because I have a passion for making chunky knit blankets and other stuffies and such like that. How I got into it was, well, one evening, winter, I was thinking about my grandmother and how she had taught me how to knit. And I was like, well, I wonder if I can remember how to do it. Will it come back to me? So I started, looking up tutorials on how to do it. And, the more I searched, how everything, the algorithm sends you stuff your way. So I started receiving different tutorials on my feed about different kinds of knitting and such. And that's where I saw the hand knitting. And to me, it just looks so relaxing and just thought, I need to try it. So I did. I went and got the materials I needed and I tried it. And the first blanket I made was for my son, and he absolutely loved it. I slept with it every single day. But I was super proud of it, but it had so many flaws in it. But now I feel like I'm more confident in my work, and I have an Etsy shop. It's been about a year now that I've had that, and I'm really enjoying it. And so I thought I would start a YouTube channel and get a community going of like people that enjoy knitting, and in a place that we could share ideas and such. So thank you for joining me today, and let's get started. What we're going to need today is yarn, scissors, and a lighter, and I'll explain to you why you need a lighter in a minute. Yarn, I get my yarn from Hobby Lobby or Michaels, and this is the yarn that I got from Hobby Lobby. It's the Yarn Bee Eternal Bliss Nice to See Blue. It's 28 yards. And yes, so that's the yarn we're working with today. However, I do get yarn from Michaels. I like to get yarn from both of those places because then I can get different colors, because Michaels has some that Hobby Lobby doesn't have, and vice versa. So, and it's just called, basically it's Chanel Chunky Knit yarn. I think it's number 7. All right. So let's get started. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is do a cast on. So we are going to cast on 10 stitches, and it's also known as a chain. So we are going to make our chain. We are just going to leave a little bit of a tail, and I'll show you what we're going to do with the tail at the end. Okay, so to get started, you're going to grab your yarn, your working yarn, and you're going to twist and kind of make a loop, and then you're going to pull the working yarn through. And basically, you're making a slip knot. Okay, so that's your start. So one more time, we're going to take it, twist, turn, pull through. Okay. And now we're going to go ahead and continue making our chain. Make sure that you don't make the loops too tight. Otherwise, you're going to have issues when you go to make the rest of your blanket. It's going to begin to curve. So you always want to make sure you are a little bit looser on your chain, your starting stitches, than you are the rest of the blanket. So let's continue. We're going to do 10 for today. So my plan is to go 10 and then 10 up. So we're going to pull the working yarn through the loop. And that's 2. Grab the working yarn through the loop. That's 3. Grab the working yarn through the loop. That's 4, and I am doing 3 fingers loops. That way, like I said, we don't want a tight stitch to start with. What was I on? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's make sure I did that right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Nope, one more. And 10. Okay, so that is our chain. That is our cast on. So now what we're going to do, and for me, I like to have my working yarn going in the direction that I'm going towards. That way it's not getting in the way and you can work a little bit faster like this. So this last loop is going to be start the first row of the next chain. So you're going to want to pull your working yarn through these loops here, these top loops here. Now some people at this point like to flip the yarn over and pull their working yarn through these middle bumps right here. It makes a different border, but both very nice borders, but I prefer just to work with the bumps on top here. So what you're going to do is put your fingers through here, grab a piece of the working yarn, pull it through. There's your second loop, and third loop, fingers through and pull. Now, I usually like to keep my stitches 2 fingers. That way, the stitches are a little bit tighter, and you don't get like big holes in your blankets, because the yarn really does stretch. So working yarn through and pull, and our last one, working yarn through and pull. Now I highly recommend when you're just starting out, after each row that you're going to do, to count your loops to make sure you have 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or however many loops that you're working with. So there we go. That is our first row of knit stitches. And by the way, that's what this stitch is called, a knit stitch. Okay. So now we're going to move the yarn to the opposite direction that we're going to go to. And since we already knitted through this one, I'm just going to leave that one alone. And here we go. We'll start our next row. So we're just grabbing, pulling the working yarn. And you want to come as close as you can when you're pulling to the next stitch so that it's nice and tight. To pull. There we go. Okay. And after this next row, I will show you what the edges are going to look like. There we go. Okay, one more, and then I'll show you the edges. Because you can see the pattern better that way. One of my most popular colors of yarn right now has been the color Country Blue, and it's really similar to this, but it's very pretty color. All right. So as you can see here, we're starting to make a chain going this way. So it looks very similar to our starting chain there. And that's what we want on the edges going all the way up. Okay. All right, at this point, I'm going to continue making my chains and I'll come back when I'm at 10. Actually, let me do this because I want you guys to see what happens if you run out of yarn. So I ran out of yarn. That was it. So what you would do if you run out of yarn, or even if you want to make a color change at this point, you have two options. You can either tie your yarn together like this, do a slip knot, not a slip knot, a knot, tug on it until you know it's secure. You don't want to pull too tight because it will rip. And then you would just, cut these pieces off here, like so. And you would continue knitting, and you're not going to even see that knit, that knot, I should say, in your work. But, and that's how I used to do it, because I was afraid to use the liner. I was scared I was going to burn the house down. But I since have decided that that is my preferred method of connecting yarn together. So let's do that. Let's cut this off. And what you do is, some people like to burn both sides. I typically burn one side only. And what I wanted to show you before we get started doing that is that inside, in the middle of this, is like a little plastic tubing. And that is what burns and melts together. This looks a bit scruffy. I'm going to cut it again. All right, let's see. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So we're just going to burn this. There we go. And push it together. Hold it for a couple of seconds. And then you're going to start pushing it together, and you want to kind of roll it, because what will happen if you don't do that, you'll get some sharp little edges in there, and you don't want to do that. There we go. And you just twist it and make sure it rounds, and there, it's connected. And yeah. Some people have said that they've put theirs in the dryer and it's come apart from the heat of the dryer. I have never had any issues with using that method of connecting yarn. All right, we're almost there. Okay, that was our last stitch, and now what we're going to do is working on closing this off, also known as casting off. All right, so we're going to put our yarn on this side, and what we do is we take 2 loops and we take our working yarn and put it through and pull. So 2 loops, working yarn, goes through the 2 loops and pull. 2 loops, working yarn, pull through. And you can see that we are closing it off. We'll continue all the way through, 2 loops, yarn through, 2 loops, yarn through, all the way to the end of the blanket. So right here, we are going to cut the working yarn, and we're going to leave a little bit of a tail just like we did in the beginning. Okay, and two loops, and we're just going to pull. There we go. All right, so there you can see that we have a nice braided blanket all the way around. And yes, so now typically what I do with the ends is you can either tie a knot right here like so, and then you can just tuck the tail in, and you're not going to even see it in your blanket. Some people like to cut it, some people sew it, some people burn it and to another piece, but I typically just like blend it through. But that is totally up to you and what you're comfortable with. Now let's do this one. Let's do a little bit of a knot. And you'll watch so many videos and everybody will have their own way of doing things, but eventually you'll find what works for you. And this is just what I prefer to do. But yeah, totally up to you how you want to do it. So there, that is it. Oh yes, I do want you guys to see the back of this thing. So the front, these stitches here, knit stitches. The back, purl stitches. So today you learned 2 stitches. So yes, you can intertwine these, but we could talk more about that on another video. All right, well, thank you very much for joining me today. That ends our tutorial. I hope that was helpful. Please feel free to leave any comments, suggestions in the comments below. Let me know what you would like to learn next. I'm thinking of doing a baby blanket next. That way you can see the color changes and the different stitches, the purl and the knit. I'll do a combination of both. Please don't forget to subscribe and like and share out. Thanks a million. You guys have a great day.